Bigweed here. Today we review a pumpkin beer and discuss paganism. Well, good evening, Crow.
Hey, good evening, Bigweed. How you doing? How about some beer and conversation?
Well, sure. What are we drinking?
Well, okay, I ordered this new pumpkin beer from Samuel Adams called Jack-O Pumpkin
Okay,
Ale.
well, that sounds unfortunate.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's on your mind?
So there are pumpkins outside, so I
Yes.
guess that's how we got the pumpkin beer,
Yeah.
and that means Halloween is on its way.
Yes.
And I thought we would talk about the origins of Halloween
Okay, sure.
and related pagan stuff.
Okay, all right, very good. But before we do that, I think we need to take a look at this beer here.
All right.
Sam Adams Jack-O. Now, you don't have very high opinion of pumpkin ale.
I do my share of them when October comes around, but I'm never that crazy about it. And I love pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
When I get to the Royal Farms, I put the pumpkin spice in my coffee.
Yeah. So my birthday is close to Thanksgiving, and I frequently for my birthday will have a pumpkin pie because I like pumpkin pie better than I like cake. But I share your lack of enthusiasm for pumpkin beers in general.
Now, it smells great. It smells like pumpkin pie. It smells like cinnamon and nutmeg, which actually doesn't. Which pumpkins don't smell like cinnamon.
No, they smell like pumpkins. Actually, taste like squash.
No, but somehow we've all decided that
cinnamon and nutmeg,
anything pumpkin flavored
is
actually a combination of cinnamon and nutmeg.
That's right.
But anywho, so what do you think as far as pumpkin ales go?
Actually, not bad. It's a little bit sweet. It's a little bit sweet, which kind of helps the cinnamon flavor. Because if you just have cinnamon and nutmeg without a little bit of residual sweetness, it's kind of not the greatest flavor. Yeah, so you need a touch of sweetness helps it out a little bit.
Well, Sam Adams doesn't mess up.
They don't mess up. No, they do a good job.
They don't. Yeah. They don't get too experimental.
No,
but they
when they do a style, they do it right, and so it's got the right color.
Yeah. Pumpkin color.
All right. Well done, Sam Adams. Well done, Sam Adams is just like saying Sam Adams. Yeah.
Yes. Now, Sam Adams had an ancestor named Samhain.
Oh.
If you knew that.
Okay, except it's not how you pronounce it.
No, it's spelled Samhain, but the Gaelic pronunciation is something different.
Something like Samhain.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is like Samhain, but I'm going to say Samhain.
Samhain makes a whole lot more sense.
For the purposes of this show.
It's our show, it's our country.
Yes.
You can say Samhain.
And it translates to something like Summer's End in Gaelic.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So it's at that point of the year, as we are now, and as I noticed driving home, starting to get dark.
This is the time of year when I start wearing an undershirt instead of just a short sleeve shirt.
Yep.
I start wearing long pants, and I might even wear socks.
Yes. Now, back in the day of the pre-Christian Europe, it was a little bit more foreboding than having to put socks on. Yeah. It's about to get dark. You're not going to be raising any more food. Yeah, and
you're looking on a starving time.
It is a scary time of the year, and hopefully most of us will make it to the spring.
The reality. Really. Yeah, I know. The reality is
not an undershirt.
Wintertime is like where you lose a bunch of weight because you don't have enough to eat, and you very well might die from disease or starvation.
I was watching this show on the Orkney Islands. Yeah. Right, so
those are way
they're north of out in the water in front of above Scotland. Yeah, and I'm like, what are people doing 5,000 years ago? What are you doing up there?
Yeah.
There's got to be more comfortable climbs, but
they didn't know about it.
I guess
they got stuck there.
Didn't want to walk.
Scotland's far enough north, but the Orkney Islands are crazy. Yeah.
And there's no trees. There's nothing breaking the wind coming through there. So the idea was in this festival of
Samhain or Samhain.
Samhain. They believe that ghosts of the dead return to walk the earth alongside fairies, demons, and otherworldly creatures. And
speaking of fairies, did you know that, like in Scandinavian countries, some huge percentage of the population believe in fairies? Today.
So they don't believe in God, but they believe in fairies.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
They might just be kidding, but yeah, that's the statistic.
Well, we'll get to pretending to believe in things later in the show, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So they believed that the Celts or Celts believed that by dressing up as evil spirits, they could confuse and ward off any malevolent entities. So here is the dressing up as part of the Halloween tradition that we eventually have,
So if
500
you're
now.
afraid that your house is haunted, what you should do is dress as an evil spirit and try to
scare the hell out of everybody in your family.
Scare the ghost away. Right.
They also carved menacing faces into hollowed out turnips, beets, and potatoes, placing candles in them to create eerie lanterns.
Okay.
You noticing anything here?
Sounds pretty interesting.
The pattern?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there was a time when the normal order of things was suspended, and people felt free to engage in mischief and pranks.
The normal order of things being suspended. So that's kind of this idea of like the veil between this world and the other world is getting thin at this time. This is a common theme in pagan type fiction.
Right. And it's that time of year when, you're in between seasons.
Right.
And
so you're also in between this world and the next. And that's interesting.
Now then there is the Christianization of Samhain. So their All Saints Day used to be May 13th. Pope Boniface in the 7th century.
Yeah.
But Pope Gregory III moved it to November 1st.
Is Gregory III Gregory the Great? Do you know?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's a deliberate effort, likely a deliberate effort to supplant the Celtic Festival of the Dead. Well,
right.
I mean, that's just what you do, right?
Yeah,
you move in and you're like, everybody's celebrating something
You're doing
horrible.
this horrible stuff. We're going to try to switch that on a little bit,
Right. But what fell neatly into this idea of goblins and spirits was hell, devils, what are the devil's companions and helpers,
demons,
imps,
right, sure, all that kind of stuff.
So, all right, so that's all going on over in the old world. Well, with the potato famine and the flood of Irish and Scots, they kind of brought some of that stuff with them.
Okay.
So, which is interesting. The Scottish
They
immigrants
come over here and they find this amazing plant.
And then they realize turnips
really stink for doing this. That's right.
So the jack-o'-lantern is born.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
because a pumpkin is way easier to carve.
Oh, it's easy to carve. It's already hollow.
I love doing it. Carve the thing, put a candle inside. It's lovely.
And they introduced the practice of guising. Or dressing up in costumes, going door to door, reciting poems, singing songs, performing tricks.
Yeah.
All right, so you're starting to see a little door to door goings on here.
Yeah.
And then it really wasn't until the middle of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Right, that you started to get a
regular full blown Halloween. Huh?
And of course, what happens is then it gets really full blown when people realize they can make money off it.
Of course.
So then the commercialization,
and you got the candy and everything else.
And so there's the candy, and so corporations are promoting the idea of going out, buying decorations, buying costumes, buying candy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why
wouldn't they?
Yeah, and here's the thing that kind of disturbs me about Halloween.
Yeah.
Is it's a fun thing for kids to dress up and get candy, but Mrs. Crowhill and I are in this dance club.
Yeah.
And they have a Halloween thing where we're expected to wear costumes and stuff. I mean, come on, we're grown people. Why are grown-ups supposed to do this, for heaven's sakes?
Yeah, but, you're going to participate?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like these, because these are the... Well, I'm not going to go into that. Okay, all right. Now, I did listen to a Tucker Carlson talk where he was speaking to some people in... It wasn't Minnesota, but it was one of those states up that way. And he was talking about how, look, you have your culture. You do things a certain way, and you do this. And it's a lovely culture. And, you tie your boats together in this place, and you do that. And you have the local celebrations that you have. And you have your march on such and such day, and your spring festival. And And he was talking about all the local customs and how lovely that is and how good that is for a community. And the idea that somebody else should just throw a bunch of immigrants in and destroy it, that's how terrible it is. But one of the things, the reason I'm bringing this up is one of the things he mentioned was he was like, and then like Halloween. And then he stopped and said, I mean, that's kind of creepy and occultic and from the devil. But, it's something that Americans do, and I like that. I thought that was
right. Recognizing that it's weird and creepy, but it's what we do.
It's what we do. It's something that draws the community together. And I think that's an interesting perspective on it, because you can be the strict person who says, oh, that's creepy. And I don't know.
There's pagan roots and everything.
Right, yeah. But it's also a fun thing that kids get to do, and we all do it together, and
neighbors
we all smile
get
and
together.
laugh.
I know it when I was in the city, the adults would set up a little table, and they would sit there with their little table with the cheese and wine and crackers and interact with each other while the kids came by. And
best Halloween ever as an adult was when we were living in a townhouse, and there was this little court that we were in, and all the adults in the court decided, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out in the middle of the common ground, and we're going to have a fire, and we're going to have drinks, and we're going to have a thing of, spiced cider and all that kind of stuff. And we'll have all the candy there, and when kids come by to get their candy, they'll come out there, and we'll give them all the candy, and we'll be sitting around on our chairs. And it was lovely. It was fantastic.
Yeah. All right, so these have pagan roots.
Yeah, right.
Pagan roots. Now, that is not related to the nationwide motorcycle club that started right in Prince George's County, Maryland. Did you know that
the pagans started?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Prince George's County. Now, the reason I didn't join is because they have apostrophe on their jacket on the pagans.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
pagan apostrophe,
other than that, I would have been
joined. I mean, come on.
I would have been it, but I'm like,
misused an apostrophe?
You would figure guys in motorcycle clubs would be really into grammar.
You would think that they would know better, yes.
So no, we're not talking about those pagans.
Okay.
We're talking about the real pagans, which are who? What does it even mean? What does it even mean?
Pagan sort of just means country folk. And the origin of the word in the modern sense comes from...
Not the modern. Modern as in the Christian sense.
Yeah. So when Christianity took over the Roman Empire and spread out throughout Europe, pagan beliefs persisted mostly in the countries. In the cities where there was more, you had a church and you had the bishop. And so you had more orthodoxy and Christian belief in the cities, and out in the country is where you had the leftover old religions that have been replaced. So paganism basically just refers to what the country folk do. And so it's rural folk religion.
Right. But it meant polytheistic non-Christians.
Yes, exactly.
So it was applied equally to the Germanic tribes, so it's just like a general term. They didn't point out all of the various non-Christians.
No,
it just meant
they didn't come up with like the list of doctrines of all the. No, it's basically just non-Christian polytheists. You're outside the scope. They're not Jews. They're not Christians. They're not Muslims. They're polytheists who are trying to retain some other belief system.
Some barbaric, backward nonsense system in their minds, right?
That's right.
I mean, it was a pejorative.
Yes, it was a pejorative. Yes.
So, but they must have meant something to these people. What were they doing out there with their pagan beliefs?
Yeah, well,
besides carving pumpkins.
Unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. We really don't know.
Right.
Because they
didn't have written language.
They didn't have written language. Nobody sat down and wrote a systematic theology of paganism. So
there's a little bit of Christian Romans who did their best to try to say what these people were up to, but the Druids themselves didn't leave anything behind.
Think about two different groups that were incredibly influential. The Druids and the cult of Mithra. Okay? So the cult of Mithra in Rome, extraordinarily influential. But we really don't know a whole lot about it because for one reason or another, there just aren't a lot of records telling us what they really did. We know it had to do with a bull, and we know there are certain things we know
but
about. But
also,
Mithraism.
it was like Scientology, where it was secret. You had to be on the inside.
That's right.
Before you got revealed the secrets of the religion, right?
And then same thing like in England with Druidism. The Druids were incredibly powerful and influential, and Druidism wasn't just in England. It spread. It was Druids had connections throughout France and other parts of Europe.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful, very influential, but we actually know very little about them because they didn't write anything down. We don't know exactly what they believed. So a lot of the pagan
did they wear
stuff,
cool hoods and have beards?
I don't know, but apparently they did amazing feats of astronomy. Like, for example, there were times when they could predict eclipses and other kinds of things with amazing accuracy. So they clearly knew something. They weren't dummies.
Right.
But their belief system didn't survive.
And in like with the Mayans, you'd have, and I think this is the same thing with the Druids. Of course, there were no calendars. I mean, there's nobody's keeping real track, but they did understand the stars, and they would have these like long tunnels where a shaft of light would only go through on the winter solstice, or something like that, right? It'd be like, okay, now we know that it's about to get lighter now, but mostly because probably farming information was good.
Calendars are incredibly.
So they just do tally marks on a tree, you know.
But if you do like 360 days or 365 days or whatever, your calendar is going to be wrong relatively quickly. Yeah. So the idea of having something that would say, okay, now we know because this shaft of light is going. Now we can reset things. You know, this is the first day.
I see. Whatever. Right. Yeah. If you're just counting the days, and it's not going to work. It's not going to last forever.
So paganism. What's interesting to me is the contrast between what paganism probably really was and the modern kind of neo-pagan idea.
Right.
Yeah. So the neo-pagans, we could try to kind of summarize it: reverence for nature, positive attitude towards ritual. You combine those two.
But if you were just to walk into, Viking culture, how would their lives be informed? Before we get to the Neos, let's talk about the pagans.
Okay.
How would their lives be structured in this religion that we don't know much about?
Yeah, so there was an interesting article by Rod Dreher recently about this, and he talked first about what he calls disenchantment, which he says is the modern thing, where the world is fundamentally meaningless, chaotic, and godless. There's like everything is just sort of random, and the pagans didn't have that idea. Their entire lives were shaped around this set of beliefs that had to do with Thor and this, that, and the other. That the supernatural world,
enchantment,
enchantment.
Things are enchanted. The world is filled with meaning and spirits and guidance and. There are things to please, things that you can appeal to.
Yes.
Right? So there's the elves and fairies and harvest gods. And,
yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. And the supernatural would be as realistic to them as the ordinary. Like the idea of a boat is a real thing, but the god of the sea was just as real as the boat.
Totally real. Yeah. I remember watching... It was a great series. It was called Blood and Sand, and it was the story. This is recent. It was the story of gladiators and the Spartacus Revolution.
Okay.
And I remember being surprised at the level of appeal to the gods. Every conversation somehow ended with or started with that the gods will it.
Yeah.
According to the gods.
Right.
And I'm like, this seems pretty I hadn't really thought about it, but living all day, every day,
and you get a lot of that in Islam. You get a lot of that in Islam.
Yeah. And but certainly in paganism, right? That these things are all around you all the time.
Yeah. There's a strong sense of fate, and your life isn't. You don't drive your life. Something else is driving your life.
But with proper reverence and sometimes sacrifice, there's plenty of that too, at least in Viking culture.
Yeah.
You can get the gods on your side, and that's what you want. The god. It's a bad harvest. Well, this goes back to the Bible too. You kind of blame yourself. All right, what are we doing wrong?
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're not doing the right. We're not appealing to the gods in the right way.
Yes. Yes.
And but one of the distinctions between the reason that the Christians viewed the pagans with such disrespect was that Jesus, the message of Christianity, turned the world upside down.
Well, so there's actually two senses, I think, in which Christianity turned the world upside down. One is monotheism, which makes the world sensible, governed by one. It's not this God against this God, and this principle against this principle, and the Sky Father against the Earth Mother, and all this other. There's one logos. There's one principle, and that allowed for the birth of science, right? So there's that side of Christianity, which turned. But then the other side of Christianity, which I think is what you're talking about, is forgiveness, and everybody is created in the image of God,
and people. Lives have value,
right?
In general,
even those horrible people over there, their lives have value. There's one other thing I wanted to pull out of this Dreher article that I thought was really good. He's talking about paganism. He says the witches, the prophets, the omens, all that mystery and ritual is spellbinding. As inhuman as the Viking men were, they were more human in a way than the sterilized, consumerized zombies of today.
Yes, that's pretty good. Meaning that they believed in something.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they didn't. They had a sense of meaning. They had a sense of purpose. They had a sense of belonging. All those kinds of things. And paganism apparently did provide those things.
It would have to. I mean, it and this would be in contrast to modern paganism, but it would have to provide some cohesiveness to the community. I mean, it wouldn't survive.
Exactly. A community, in order to survive, has to have some common set of beliefs and concepts and ideas.
Yeah. So I came across this little notion here, talking about two TV shows or films. Shogun and The Northman are two honest portrayals of pre-Christian societies. They all have these things in common. Human life isn't valued, and forgiveness is a foreign concept. We take for granted how Christianity turned the world upside down.
Yes, because if you're a Viking, then your people, your tribe, they matter. But those other guys, you can kill them, you can enslave them, you can rape them, you can do whatever you want with them.
And I think the point is that this was widespread, right? I mean, the Americas and anywhere you think
everywhere in the world.
Yeah, like Christianity. And this brings me to, I brought this up when we read Kurt Vonnegut, and Kurt Vonnegut, who is a humanist, not a religious person. He says, if what Jesus said was good, and so much of it was absolutely beautiful, what does it matter if he was God or not? If Christ hadn't delivered the Sermon on the Mount with its message of mercy and pity, I wouldn't want to be a human being. I would just as soon be a rattlesnake.
A cross-eyed rattlesnake?
Which is just delightful.
My grandfather always warned me about cross-eyed rattlesnakes.
His greatest legacy to us, in my humble opinion, consists of only 12 words. They are the antidote to the poison of the code of Hammurabi, meaning an eye for an eye.
Right.
A formula almost as compact as Albert Einstein's E equals MC squared. The 12 words: forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Yeah, and there's no concept of that at all in paganism. No. Right. No. And so that's why they had no problem going to Linda's farm and killing everybody and taking their stuff. It's like, who are those people? We don't care.
They have stuff.
They have stuff, and I want it.
Yeah.
So that's real paganism.
So how closely aligned is modern paganism, which is really like basically a mid-20th century kind of a thing. Yeah. Are we talking about a revival of original paganism? Or is this just something made up based on some romanticized version of pre-Christian culture?
Yeah, it's definitely a romanticized, made-up version.
Well, good, because I don't want actual pagans.
I know. I don't want the Vikings to come back. They were rotten people. When I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a Viking.
Right.
Yeah, they're horrible people. I don't want Vikings to exist. So, modern paganism is to some extent a rebirth, regeneration of original pagan ideas in a few senses. There's ritual, there's reverence for nature.
Yes.
You get cyclical feasts, you get festivals, that sort of stuff. There's the concept of magic, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute. There's gods and goddesses, the Earth Mother, the Sky Father.
Right.
There's so that's where it's kind of consistent with ancient paganism. Where it doesn't seem to be consistent with ancient paganism is modern pagans have this kind of personal spiritual autonomy where they take what they want from various traditions and kind of create their own little religion. It's not like they're subject to anybody. It's not like the local priest or witch or whatever is, they're just like, I'm making up my own mix. This is my truth.
Yes, right. Right. So they're picking up on a few Norse gods, mixing it in with some Native American.
They just decide to make their own soup out of.
And nobody's in charge, and
nobody can tell them when it's wrong. Now, another way that it's different from old paganism is modern pagans kind of have a respect for other beliefs and practices. They say, okay, this is the way I do it. This is my truth. That's your truth. You do this. I do that. Whatever. Blah blah blah. Ancient pagans would just kill you if you know.
There's nothing going on.
You don't follow my God. Okay, then you're garbage, and I'll kill you. So there's a lot of disconnect between the two. So kind of a scholarly reaction to neo-paganism is it's idealized, it's romanticized. It's not tied to any one actual tradition that actually existed anywhere.
No.
People just pull various things. It's largely influenced by like Aleister Crowley and these other sort of invented occult pagan things.
Yeah, what was the guy? That one guy in the 1950s is responsible for Wicca.
I think it's Aleister Crowley.
No. Is it different? I can't think of his name, but it doesn't matter. So, this is not some long-standing tradition.
Mm-mm.
This is a guy. This is some Brit. So you had in the 19th century, Romanticism there was a lot of nature worship going on there. That sort of opened the gates a little bit. I don't think you didn't have full-blown paganism.
Yeah.
But you had, when was Sherlock Holmes writing? And didn't he like fairies?
No, but so that would be like 1860s and so on.
Yeah,
that's the time frame of Sherlock Holmes stories.
Right. No, not Sherlock Holmes didn't, but Doyle did.
Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah. Arthur Conan Doyle. Yes, he was into.
This is the most spellbounding.
I know, it's so weird because he creates this character.
Yes.
Who is this science, facts and logic and everything else. And he himself went to seances and believed all this crazy nonsense.
I cannot square that.
I know, it is so weird. It is so weird. So I guess there are some good points about paganism in that they do have some sense of moral values that transcend their own opinion. And I'm talking about traditional paganism, not modern paganism, because the modern pagan just picks whatever he wants.
Right.
Like traditional paganism, they actually had some set of values. They had a sense of belonging, they had a sense of meaning and awe, they had a respect for the sacred and the divine, they had a focus on their own lives as having a purpose within a culture. Those are all good things in terms of building a culture. But the bad side of it, as you highlighted before, is they're loyal to their tribe, but everybody else can go to hell and get slaughtered and raped and tortured. And too bad.
So the few things that I tried to listen to and watch about people selling me on modern paganism was as vague and incoherent. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what exactly are you? What are you talking about? Are you talking? Are you okay? So nature reverence. All right, I'm okay with hug tree hugging people. We got the. If you want to personify nature a little bit, and that you revere it a little bit more, and maybe you take better care of it, and you have a greater respect for it. There's nothing wrong here with this here, but then I'm like. Are you saying you believe in the gods and the spirits that actually exist there? And it kind of sounds like it does, which seems to me is kind of nonsense. Yeah. This is cosplay.
In a way, it is. It's kind of like It's kind of like the spiritual but not religious thing. It's like I want to make up my own religion and believe things that make me feel good because I like them.
It's theater majors, people who work at the Renaissance Festival, people who score high on openness and extroversion.
Maybe extroversion, yeah.
But
they're the people who are in the drama club in high school. Yeah.
So when it sounded to me like there are two guys who are just super excited about their D&D characters.
Okay.
And I just got to the 7th level and I got this new spell and this invisibility cloak and they're kind of they're into it. They're having a great conversation, but they don't actually believe it.
Right.
We're just having fun here, right? Which is fine with us. Sometimes I think of the pagan people. Once you cross the line and say, no, I actually do believe in the spirits and Odin and whatever. I'm like, are you making
serious?
Any sense?
Well, I wonder what extent.
What if this came up on your dating site? Is that a swipe?
Oh my gosh! So it reminds me a little bit of this. The law of there was some flake that I knew a long time ago who believed in this. The law of desire. Or it's like if you want something, if you focus on it, it will come to you. There's some sort of a weird belief in this. And the question is, do you really believe that, or is that just like a thing that you tell yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it sort of, I'm creative. Mm-hmm. I have a fresh, fun way of looking at the world. You're kind of having a little bit of fun. But are you telling me let's just stop here.
Yeah. Do you really think Odin exists?
Can we just stop here?
Yeah. How about that? Do you really? Yeah. It is frustrating because I think a lot of them, and I did some research on Wicca some years ago, and I was working on this fiction project, and it's just a bunch of incoherent nonsense that people pull their own collection of things together that make them feel happy or comfortable or whatever.
And you like getting together around a fire in the woods wearing cloaks. That all sounds very fun.
Yes.
Enjoy yourselves.
Sure, exactly.
That's fun.
Sounds like
but if you but it's like we're all just having fun here, right? And this is just
But here's the bottom.
And then you get but then there's going to be the guy who wants to sacrifice a cat. And
yeah, I think the bottom line, though, is what you pulled out from, in terms of forgiveness and mercy, and is that stuff real? And how can you justify it? How can you have some coherent philosophy that says, no, it's not just that I like mercy and forgiveness. No, this is important and this is real and this is the way things really are. That's what paganism is missing.
Yeah. And I forgot to. Right, so I got theater majors, Renaissance Festival, openness, and you have a lot of women. Because it's not the patriarchal single god. There's a lot of goddesses going on here.
Yeah.
So, and the one thing I listened to, this woman was preparing to give this interview, and she kept saying they, and I'm thinking it's a group of people, and then this one person comes on, and I'm like, oh, I see. Yeah. So there's probably a lot of that going on, in the feminist pagan community where goddesses are more important than gods, and
I would guess that there's a lot more female Wiccans than male Wiccans.
Yeah. Or males who just want to
play along. Exactly. I mean, they have a good ratio going on there.
I was a theater major in college, and it was like 2 to 5. The women. There's just women everywhere.
Yeah.
And half the guys were gay. So I mean,
I know,
you got your
exactly.
it's a great. I do recommend that.
That's a good.
If you're not concerned about a career and you just want to enjoy yourself in college.
Yeah. Or like major in electrical engineering, but minor in theater.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, well, all right. So Halloween's coming, and that sounds fun, and
And we're not big fans of paganism.
No,
it's fun in terms of carving pumpkins and all that.
Yes,
sure,
those pagan traditions are fun, but actual pagans are scary, and new pagans are weird.
Yes.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.